how do you make something like this with multiple colors on a printer like this? I have one spool, one print head. It can print one color, but yet I was able to print a multicolor coaster with multiple colors printed throughout. How did I do this? I will tell you. Okay, so here's the final product in Orca Slicer, ready to go. Keep in mind, I'm doing this in Orca Slicer. I printed this on a Neptune 4 Pro, an Elegoo Neptune 4 Pro running the Clipper software. That's important because one of these pieces later on could be specific to anything running Clipper. And Orca Slicer, of course, because this is what I know, so this is what I'm training in. So I'm going to go over to the other one that we have here. So this is just the STL file loaded up and ready to go. Keep in mind, STL files only contain geometric data. They don't contain any color information or any other like G-code related things. It's just geometric data, which means that the stops or the pauses are not included whenever I downloaded this G-code. So I had to learn how to put those pauses in there, how to do it correctly to make it easy to manually change the filament, because that's the key, is you have to manually change the filament. Now, I'm going to have a link to this slime coaster in the description if you want to load it up in Orca Slicer and follow along. So, one of the first things that you need to do is over here on the left side, make sure that you have all the colors that you want selected. I have all four. I have 4 filaments here, and these are the different colors that I need. I know that because I've, if you look at the finished product on Thingiverse, you'll see the colors that you need to have available to you. It's important to do this because it makes it easier whenever you're printing, whenever you're doing the change filament later. It allows you to see the individual color changes in the preview tab. If you don't know how to add up here, you can click on these buttons here. This is a plus, a minus. So you can add and subtract different filaments. To change the color of the filament, click on the number, and then just click the color you want, click OK, and now you have the filaments available to you. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to the Preview tab and let it slice. Alright, a couple things on the Preview tab that I had to learn to do this. This bar over here, I didn't know what it did when I started doing this. I was brand new. But what this bar actually does is it allows you to scroll through each individual layer that gets printed, layer by layer, to see what each layer looks like, and you can watch it. If you start at the bottom, you can watch it grow until a finished product is made. So what these numbers mean, this 25 is the number of layers. That's the layer number that you're currently on. The 5.0 is the height of the product, based on what you have selected over here for the layer height. So if I actually go down with the arrow key one by one, you can see it goes from 5.0 to 4.8, 4.6, 4.4 on the right side over here. That is because I have this selected to a layer height of 0.2. Of course, if you did 0.24, 0.16, 0.12, it would change what this changes. It would change, the math, right? And another thing that's kind of fun and neat, this bar down here shows the number of steps that it does as it's printing, and you can scroll this left and right, and it actually shows you each layer being printed. That one's not overly exciting, but let's go to one that has a lot going on in it. And now if I scroll this through, you can use the right and left arrow keys, and you can actually see that it's doing layer by layer printing. So right now we're printing layer 12, and this will show you everything that's happening when it's printing layer 12. Is this useful? I don't know, maybe. I think it's neat. I haven't found a specific use for it yet, but I do think that it's a neat feature. Alright, so how do we determine where to stop is the next question, and how do we stop? If you right click over here on the plus sign where that layer is, you can actually right click and just add pause. Done. It'll pause when it gets done printing, and it pauses before the layer selected. So we have layer 12 selected here, so it'll pause before it prints layer 12. Not after it prints layer 12, it pauses before it prints layer 12. So if we go down one, this is the layer it's going to print. And then it's going to start, and then it's going to pause before it prints this layer, layer 12. Again, I have it paused on layer 12. It's going to finish layer 11, and then it'll go up. It'll pause before starting layer 12. That's how we figure out where we need to add the pauses based on the colors that we need to have visible. You put the pause on the layer that you want the color change to happen. So it is kind of intuitive, right? I want blue to start printing, so I'm going to, on layer 12, so I'm going to put a pause on layer 12 so I can swap it out, and then we're going to have blue start printing. But there's another thing that makes it easier. You can right click and change filament. And here, look at this. You can see those 4 different colors that we added previously. So if I change filament to red, the bar actually changes. The bottom half of the bar is blue, the top half of the bar is red. You do have to reslice every time you change colors. But now if we go down one layer to 12, or sorry, to 11, everything from 1 to 11 is going to print in blue. But then when we get to layer 12, it's putting a pause in there. It's going to put a pause in there. There's a trick to that with Clipper software. It's going to put a pause in there so it stops printing. And then your job is to go there, manually change out the filament, load the new filament, and resume printing. And then it'll start printing the next color. So you can kind of get an idea of how that works, right? Now, then you got to figure out where do you put your pauses to achieve the colors that you want. And the only real way to do that, I'm going to remove this here, is you have to step through one by one until you see the things appear, and then you figure out where your pause has to be. So if I step through here, this is going up. Okay, so now we have the mouth starting to form. You can see right here the mouth is starting to form. If I go up, the mouth is still there. The mouth is, let's see, we've got a little outline on the mouth, and now we have the eyes starting to form. So now the eyes are starting to form. That's okay. But if we keep going up, pay attention to the mouth. Notice how the mouth never has anything else printing on it after about layer 6. Actually, layer 5 is probably the last layer that it prints anything on the mouth. Layer 6 wraps around the mouth and starts with some infill. So we could probably put that at layer 6. And then layer 7, we're going to start growing in the eyes. We want the eyes to be black to make sure that we capture the black of the pupils, right? So again, I'll show you the finished product. And you can actually see on this, you can see the different layer changes here. And I have red as the start. So we need red to be the base color of this because we need the mouth to be red. Now, you can't do a color change here for the very first layer. What you have to do, we're going to go back to preview, and we're going to just change this to red. We're going to change the whole thing to red. This is right click on the object, change filament, we're going to change it to red. Now we're going to go back to slice. And I said we're going to do layer 7 is when we're going to do the first layer change, I believe, right? That is weird. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do layer 7 for the first layer change. So I'm going to do right click, change filament, and what color do we need this to be? We need this to be black. We need it to be black for the eyes to start appearing. Because if we scroll up a bit, we can see the pupils are starting to form. So we need black for the pupils. You can see right here the pupils are forming. So we're going to do black. And we're just going to go up. We're going to slice again. Every time you add a filament change, you want to slice again. So now we can see the black of the pupils is starting to come in. And now what's the next color? It looks like the eyes are forming. So we probably need to do something for the eyes. But what layer do we need to do it on? Let's try it on this layer. Just to see what happens. Slice again. Oh, look at that. We actually covered up the pupils, didn't we? Now the pupils are going to be white as we scroll up. We can't have that. That's why it's so important to have your colors set up here. So we're going to remove this one. We're going to go up maybe here, because this looks like we have the white starting to form. So let's change this to white right here on layer 11. Slice plate. And now we have, okay, and now we have the whites of the eyes. And now the whites of the eyes are going to be here. We need to make sure the whites of the eyes do not get covered up by the next color, which is going to be blue. So it looks like maybe here, this is the last, it looks like here if I do it, it's going to be too soon. I'm going to do on this color, or this one here, number 14. We're going to change that to blue. We're going to slice this again. That's looking nice. That's looking nice. We got the blue filling in. We still have the red of the mouth, the black of the pupils, and the whites of the eyes. This is looking nice. We have one more color to fill in because we need all of that black. Because remember, everything outside of the blue slime here is black. So we need all the black to fill in. And really, we have a lot of leeway, it looks like, here for doing that. It looks like right here might be the last layer for the blue. Sometimes you can look at the edges of where it's printing, like right here, because we can see that this is starting to stack on top and the blue is no longer being printed. So I'm going to go ahead and change the black here on 16. We don't need a whole lot of blue, it appears. Let's slice plate. Alright, and now we got a nice black outline here for the slime. There we go. Does that match my other one? It looks like on my other one, I must have changed black at a different time because I don't have that black outline here. You see that? This black outline here does not exist on this one here. Does that matter? Probably, I don't know, probably not. What layer did I change? I did layer 17 on this one. And this one I did layer 16. Would it have mattered? Not really. Because it's still, you still have the blue of the slime, the black of the outline around it. It still would have been a good looking print. So let's go ahead and fill this up. There we go. I'm going with it. Alright, so that gives you an idea of how you can do this using Orca Slicer. Now keep in mind, there's probably not a whole lot of ways that you can use this. It's very specific. You have to have ways for the colors to bleed through and show through, which means you have to have holes present. The reason why this works is because there's nothing else that prints over the mouth, right? There's nothing else that prints over the pupils once you get the black layer in, the white layer, and the blue layer. It all layers on top, and then it skips printing once it gets done with that. So this can be done, but I imagine that the application of it is small. It's a very specific type of application. Now, could you do it for anything that you wanted to? And say you were printing something tall and you wanted it to be different colors for whatever reason. Could you do this? Absolutely. You could do that and change colors. By all means. It's your thing. Now, there is another thing that needs to be covered with Clipper software. Whenever you do the change filament over here, it does, Orca Slicer with Clipper software does not automatically put a pause. If I change this to the system preset of the Neptune 4 Pro and go to the settings of it, I'm going to go to the machine G-code. And there's a change filament section in here. So by default we have M600. M600 is not the change filament code for Clipper software. I fought with this until I figured out that this just does not work. I had to do research and figure out what to put in here correctly. Because I wanted to do the change filament so I can see it in Orca Slicer whenever I'm doing the preview, but I also wanted it to eject some of the filament to make it easier to change the filament. But when I was doing the change filament and I was doing this, it would not pause it at all. I did it multiple times, couldn't figure out why it wasn't pausing until eventually I just started asking Gemini and I got the answer. So I'm going to change it to mine because this one already has it built in there. So there you go. Change filament G-code. M600 does nothing to Clipper, I guess. I don't know what M600 does. But the word pause will pause the print. Simple enough, right? Who would have thought? Pause the print. And then M702, semicolon, eject filament will actually eject some of the filaments while it's still hot to make it easier to pull out, lessening your chances of something getting stuck or caught or jammed. If you've ever dealt with a clogged nozzle, you don't want to deal with a clogged nozzle. If you have not dealt with one, it will happen. It's like riding a motorcycle. You have either crashed or you will crash. You will either have a clogged nozzle or you've already experienced it. That's the world of 3D printing. So, M702, semicolon, eject filament, put that in there, put pause in there, in this order, and it will pause the printer, eject the filament, allowing you to change out the color easily. All right, I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope it was educational. I hope it was easy to follow. And honestly, I don't know how useful the skill is because it's a lot of work to do. It requires a lot of babysitting, but it is a fun thing to go through if you want to learn about your printer, how it functions, and learn more about the software. I will put a link to this guy in the description if you want to try again and follow along and do it yourself. Thank you, have fun, print more.